Great. Hi, Jim Paterson, Principal of Discovery Group. I'm here with Brandon Macdonald, CEO of Fireweed Metals. Brandon, hi.
How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, doing well.
Now, you were a speaker, excellent speech on a panel today talking about critical metals. You were talking about two different critical metals.
Yep.
And let's start with the first one first, zinc. Tell us about how zinc fits into the critical metals space.
Yeah, I mean, I think like all critical metals, one of the key components that makes it critical is not a lot of substitutes, right? So in terms of zinc, the primary use is galvanization, so this is rust prevention. There are other ways to prevent rust in steel. You can make stainless steel. That is a hell of a lot more expensive than zinc galvanization. So that tends to be the go-to. So whether you're building bridges or automobiles or something to that effect, there's a lot of zinc needed for that. Other uses in fertilizer, chemicals, some novel uses in batteries and stuff like that, but really driven by galvanization, which makes it an infrastructure metal, right? So as China continues their infrastructure push, as the U.S. maybe does an infrastructure refresh, that's huge driver for zinc.
Talk about supply-demand fundamentals and if there's gaps out there that you can foresee in terms of the balance.
Yeah, well, interesting that there's a couple of big-ish zinc mines coming on stream in the next couple of years. Ozernoye in Russia, and Ivanhoe's Kapushi in DRC, right? But other than that, the cupboard's kind of bare. And the difference between zinc and, say, copper is that copper projects tend to be really massive and super long mine life. These super big porphyries, and the global reserves to demand ratio in copper is about 30. In zinc, it's about 13, which means there's just like zinc is always perpetually within a decade of running out. So because the mines are generally smaller, you have Red Dogs, you have Mount Isas, you have these big outliers. For the most part, they're small operations, these polymetallic. So it's a unique space to be where demand is growing, very, very healthy CAGR, really driven by infrastructure, but the supply situation is dire.
Can you explain to our viewers what CAGR is?
Compound annual growth rate.
Right, okay. And so what you're talking about here is there's no room for error. Get a couple years of drought in terms of new supply coming on.
Yeah.
It could quickly run out and get consumed.
Yeah, well, recently, 2015, 2016, Lachine and Century in Australia, Lachine in Ireland and Century in Australia shut down, and the zinc market went into chaos, right? And that's all it takes is a couple operations to shut down, and it's out of control.
So Fireweed's part of Discovery Group. Describe the discovery at Mac Pass.
Yeah, well, part of it was discovering a project in someone else's portfolio that they didn't like, right? And I think that's a unique part of the business is we saw that Hud Bay had these two deposits in Yukon, Tom and Jason, that they had not looked at since 1991, and that when we toured it with them, there was nobody left in Hud Bay that had even been to the projects. That's how long it had been since they'd seen them, and so the discovery was like, okay, we think there's something to these. We think the zinc market's hot. We want to own these deposits. And so we bought them. We confirmed that they were more than what Hud Bay thought they were. But I think the more interesting part of the discovery was that we did a series of land deals to expand the land package from 50 square kilometers to 900 square kilometers, kind of going northwest by west, and made other significant discoveries along the way, confirming that this is a district. Now, it's very easy to say, oh, it's a district. But when you have 4 known deposits and signs of 7 or 8 more, it's a district. Right?
Give us an idea of an interval, one of your smashing drill intervals.
Yeah, so we had this new zone that we found called Boundary West, which produced the best ever drill hole on the project, 123 meters of 12.4% zinc, which not only was the best intersection on the project, you look at all drill intersections in Greenfield's projects in the last 15 years, Greenfield zinc projects, and in terms of grade width, it's the best. So it's, this is a world-beating intersection. And interestingly, a project initially drilled in 1951, when we look at the whole land package, 300 plus drill holes, 6 of the top 10 in the last year.
Wow.
So our geological understanding, our vectoring, just we improve it every year, and we expect big things this year.
Yeah. And so you're taking big step outs. You're not sticking around one little area and drilling these little holes. You're taking big, massive, risky step outs that add a lot of value with each hole.
Yeah, no time to be timid.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so now you've got the team. You were back. Why did the Lundins back you?
Well, it was interesting. You know, I think there's a connection to the Lundin family through Bluestone. But really, you know, this was a relationship I had mostly with Adam Lundin over 4 or 5 years, and you know, it was the culmination of our success really that he looked at, that the project kept getting better and better and better until he just eventually brought it to the group and was like, this is the best zinc project. We need to own part of this. So it was exciting. You know, it's such a sharp group. For them to come in with $20 million is such a huge endorsement, and you know, with that, you know, the recognition of their success, and a lot of shareholders who pretty, you know, loyal to them as well.
So just for the massive viewing audience that we have here, just be specific on what they brought in terms of investment and what that general financing was, or the overall financing.
Yeah, so we raised $35 million in December. That was $20 million from the Lundin family, and then as well there was a significant amount from Teck Resources, the world's third largest zinc miner, who's invested in 4 out of our 6 last financings, I think. So you know, that was an important endorsement as well. You know, $35 million financing. $32 million of it came from existing shareholders.
Wow.
Only another 3 was, and the Lundin family.
Yeah.
And then another 3 was, you know, new shareholders, right? So it's a testament to how unique and powerful a share registry we have.
Okay, so before we get into more of the corporate stuff, talk about tungsten. You made an acquisition of a tungsten project. How does that fit into the story?
Look, I think it's important to be opportunistic. That when you get, you know, like in exploration, you can be too model driven, and you can miss something that's right in front of your face. I think in corporate affairs, you can be too model driven, which is to say, we've got the zinc project, we're going to do X, X, and X, and sell it for X, and you might miss an incredible opportunity that's just there screaming at you. And that was this project right next to our Macdonald Pass zinc project, right next to it, contiguous with it. Yeah, is a tungsten project that is the best tungsten deposit in the world. And it was owned by the government following the bankruptcy of another company. And after so long years of back and forth with them, they agreed to sell it to us. And really it was a testament to our relationship with the government and indigenous groups that there was no process in the sale of that project. It was just sold to us, right? And you know, now this is a project that's had a feasibility study, that's been through the environmental assessment with a positive recommendation, that is a unique and truly strategic asset, right? So
let me jump in, because I forgot to ask you how tungsten fits in the critical metals space. So you've got this great project. Talk about how tungsten fits in.
Yeah, I think people are familiar with the rare earth story, right? So where rare earths, a little bit different dynamics than tungsten. It's very similar. So 85% of mine supply for tungsten is in China. That's not processing, that's mine supply, right? So they have a stranglehold on mining, and then another 5% comes from Russia. Meanwhile, you've got the U.S. that has told defense contractors they can't source tungsten from Russia or China, anywhere in the value chain, and you've got to scramble for you know, Western metal. You know, in comes our project, well situated and big enough, and being such a chunky project, we could supply, for example, everything the U.S. needs for 50 years.
Wow.
So that's what I mean by it's a strategic level asset, right? This is something that's on the radars of every level of government.
So you've got a very strong team, a great board, you're well financed, you're backed by big shareholders that are strategic in many ways and incredibly knowledgeable in terms of the industry. So their investment is a massive stamp of approval in terms of credibility for the project. What's going to happen this year in terms of news flow?
Well, our biggest ever drill program, right? So on Mac Pass, we're going to do more drilling this year than we have in the last 4 years combined, right? So this is going to be 16,000 meters, I think quite possibly more than that. A huge amount of drill results probably starting in August and all the way through to January, culminating in resource and economic studies on both Mac Pass and Mac Tongue that will solidify their place in the hierarchy of zinc and tungsten as kings of the hill, right? So this is insanely exciting.
So the company's added a whole bunch of value. Really smart investors have recognized that. The market cap hasn't caught up yet, but the slingshot is being pulled back as we speak, is it not?
Yeah, and I think anyone who's traditionally a mining investor recognizes that there's not a lot of generalist money coming into the space. But there are these new critical mineral focused funds, et cetera, that are emerging. And I think when all that money floods into the space, first off, the best companies will move first, and they're going to move the furthest. And we've got the best in class projects for zinc and tungsten, so we think we're poised to go bananas.
Bananas?
Yeah, bananas.
Fabulous. Okay, just before we finish off, give our massive viewing audience an idea of your ticker symbol, your market cap, where you're traded, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so Fireweed Metals Corp, website fireweedmetals.com, ticker TSXV FWZ or FWEDF on the OTCQB in the US. Market cap's about 120 million Canadian, and info at fireweedmetals.com if you want to chat with us.
Fabulous indeed. Thank you, Brandon.